a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I am a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very line the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ spreads confusion and
Hey
promotes
everybody,
lies.
it is March 19th, 2014. This Non-Religious Life. I'm your host Ken, down in Los Angeles. Up in the Bay Area we have Jason.
Hello.
Out on the East Coast we have Matt.
Hey.
Hey. A little late on the response there. And we found somebody. And he came back to us. And way up there in
Somebody
Northern
has
California we have dun 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 dun. Drum roll please.
Dun, 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 dun.
We have Bob.
Bob.
How's it
Hey,
going?
Bob.
Hey.
We've been putting out APBs for you for a few weeks now, a few months, and finally you came back. You came out of hiding. I can only assume that you might have like killed a man or something. The
No,
way
yeah.
you sort of disappeared.
Yeah,
You're like, oh man, I gotta blow this popsicle stand. Hid in Mexico for a few months.
That's
Let
right.
it
I
all
was
blow
on
over.
the lamb.
Yeah.
I was on the lamb for 3 months. You know,
But not the Lamb of God.
right. I gotta tell you, I had somebody tell me one time that our intro music was like unsettling to them. You know, it like puts them on edge. I think it's a lullaby. It really
You know
is.
what? It's so good. It definitely. I hear it sometimes. I'm like, man, I hope some of like the kids I work with who are super religious don't listen to my show. They're never gonna want to talk to me again. They're gonna hear like the first 5 seconds and be like, wait, what did that just say?
That's on them, dude. That's on them.
Jesus died on the cross for a who?
We don't
Oh,
lie.
man.
We don't lie. No.
But so a lot's happened. A lot has happened, even just since the last show,
Oh my God.
which was just barely a week and a half ago. Our not our good friends, I guess, more like Jason's good friends. He's buddy with them. The Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah.
It looks like Fred Phelps is on his deathbed.
Which
Oh.
makes me sad.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because like a lot of stuff has sort of been circulating, some false, some true, over the last like.
What is that?
Did a truck just drive by?
It may have been on my end, yeah.
That's
The
weird.
guy in a big motorcycle drove by.
That's crazy.
Sorry.
So a lot of it seems to be circulating around. The two big things are first off, I want to start with the sort of lighter thing because it's the National Report, and this is a website that I love because it's like The Onion with slightly more like believability. So anyone who's ever been to the National Report, it's a parody sort of satire news site, and they came out with this Westboro Baptist Church Fred Phelps deathbed confession: I'm gay. It's like, you know, the 84-year-old founder of the notorious Westboro Baptist Church is barely clinging to life at a Midland hospice house in Topeka, Kansas. The man who seemingly dedicated his entire life to tormenting homosexuals allegedly made a startling confession while at death's door. It's funny to me because if this were any other news site, I'd be like, yeah, all right, I buy it.
Well, you know that it seems like the obvious conclusion to draw from somebody that has like such just really hateful anti-gay rhetoric. You know, like you just sort of wonder in the back of your mind if it comes from a place of self-loathing and I don't know, repressed sexuality. Like maybe he was gay. I don't know. I don't really care. But it was, you know, his inability to deal with it that drove him that, you know, to that extreme.
Yeah,
So
no,
maybe-
and that's exactly what I mean. Like and it happens all the time. You have these, firebrand preachers and politicians who just blast homosexuals like all the time, and then like almost, yeah, I mean, you can almost set your watch by it. They end up getting caught with a rent boy or some other male prostitute doing meth in a bathroom, and like. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there have been studies done that show there's a significant amount of correlation between repressed homosexual feelings and extreme homophobia.
Well, yeah, that's why it's the obvious gag.
Did you guys see that article that said that the Bible Belt was the largest consumer of gay porn?
No, but
I actually saw a similar report. It must have been 3 or 4 years ago, where what they did was they analyzed. It was like anonymous sourcing of certain types of movies rented through Netflix based on certain areas. And what they found was the Deep South was not only the largest consumer of porn in general, it was the largest consumer of gay porn. Especially metro areas like Atlanta, Jackson, Mississippi, like Mobile, Alabama, and very surprising because you figure everyone knows sort of the bigger areas that are known for having lots and lots of gay people. There's Provincetown, Massachusetts. The Castro in San Francisco. There's West Hollywood here in LA. They're very prominent areas. So you think those would be the areas where people would be more out about their sexuality. But I guess it has to do with people being more quiet about it. They don't want to go to a video store and rent it. Netflix was perfect at the time. Just order the DVD. It comes in the mail. Put it back in the package. Ship it back. No one knows your dirty business.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a deeper meaning there. Like movies and porn in general, it's all escapist fantasy. And places like, that have gay communities where it's okay to be gay, they don't have to escape and live the fantasy. They're living their life. They get to be who they want to be. Whereas, if you're in the Deep South, people live these closeted lives and they look for means of escape.
Yeah, no, I think that's a totally reasonable explanation. I think it was Atlanta, Georgia, was the biggest consumer of gay porn in the U.S. And I was like, I was kind of shocked by that. But when you sort of think about it in that way, it kind of does make total sense.
It's actually Mississippi.
Oh, was it Mississippi? Okay, this was a few years ago, so maybe Mississippi decided it didn't want to be second fiddle to gay porn consumption and really up their game.
Mississippi's the best at everything.
We're the best at having large people, and we're the best at consuming gay porn.
Yeah, no, large people would be Wisconsin.
Mississippi is the fattest state.
Is it? Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, Wisconsin.
Apologize to Wisconsin.
I just did. Get the transcript.
Okay, good. What were you gonna say, Bob?
I was just, thinking more about Fred Phelps. It wouldn't be, it wouldn't surprise me in the least if really that were the case. But, I don't know. That's the thing about satire. There's always a grain of truth in it.
Yeah. It's true. But a few other things have come up. So apparently, and it's funny because I feel like collectively, every single person who knows who the Westboro Baptist Church is, when they heard that Fred Phelps was about to pass away, they were like, "Oh, I would love to picket his funeral." and I feel like collectively it was like this mass, subconscious idea that just rippled throughout the Western Hemisphere.
It'll probably happen.
Well, here's the thing: they're not going to have a funeral
Oh, all right.
because their church.
We'll
church
show
doesn't
them.
leave. Yeah. Yeah, we'll bury him for you, and then we'll protest it ourselves.
I think his daughter said that, or daughter-in-law, whatever she is, said that said something about how we don't do funerals and memorials because we don't believe in worshiping the dead or
Yeah.
worshiping idols and the dead. So that's why they don't hold funerals.
At least they're consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not going to be a funeral. They're going to sort of go about their business and I guess just move on. I mean, I don't know if they have the ability to feel remorse. I mean, they're so hateful, but maybe they, I don't know. Maybe they would shed a tear for their departed father / grandfather / great grandfather. But the third thing that came out, and actually I read it in Huffington Post, so I was a little more likely to sort of buy it, is that apparently Fred Phelps was excommunicated from the church.
Yeah, I saw that too, but it's because he wanted to take a less harsh stance.
The exact wording is a kinder approach.
A kinder approach.
Yes,
A kinder approach, right?
But isn't
Isn't that almost like a deathbed conversion almost?
Almost. Hey, and it was only towards church members. It was a kinder treatment to fellow church members. So maybe it was like he was testing the water for a deathbed confession. He's like, hey guys, maybe if one of our own's gay, we should kind of like, chill out a little bit. And they were like, no, and they kicked him out of the church.
If I had to guess, I wonder if that has to do with some of the biographies that have come out recently. Like there was that one Banished about one of the people involved in, like, the dad investigated the church, but then like ended up becoming a member of the church.
That guy.
She got kicked out because she like turned against them, and so she wrote a book called Banished, which was about her experience in the church. So I'm wondering, with the more of these stories you get of people coming out of it, I wonder if that's why he was like, maybe we don't need the bad press of former members spilling.
When has the Westboro Baptist Church ever been afraid of bad press? when are they be like, guys, really, you gotta tone it down? Where people are getting a bad idea about us. That never happened.
Yeah, I feel like that's they definitely. I feel like they definitely toe the line of, no press is bad press. And I mean, they don't even need the Formax members. I mean, they have like estranged family members, like Nate Phelps, who's the son of Fred Phelps. But I don't know. It's all happening very quickly. I mean, first, we lose some crazy sort of firebrand preacher one day, and the next it's another, and pretty soon we're not going to have anyone.
I don't think that's true.
Just read the George Takei. Like, man, who else? Like, you can always count on George Takei or Takai, however you pronounce his name. George Takei.
Your audio is really bad,
profound to say about it. But did you read his statement about the Fred Phelps' imminent demise and everybody deciding to, that talk about picketing his funeral?
No.
Oh, it's really great. He said, I take no solace or joy in this man's passing. We will not dance upon his grave nor stand vigil at his funeral holding God hates Fred signs, tempting as it may be. He was a tormented soul who tormented so many. Hate never wins out in the end. It instead goes always to its lonely, dusty end. George Takei.
Yeah, George Takei comes out with some pretty good, witty, very wise things sometimes.
He was in Star Trek.
I just thought,
does.
yeah, right.
I mean, he was in Star Trek.
He was he counted.
Yeah. So segueing
I think
from,
that was profound. I mean, the guy was a hateful monster.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's beneath contempt.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I almost feel bad talking about him, but it's something that, like, I feel like we should collectively understand what he is, but I'm not going to shed a tear for his passing, or, even, once it happens, I'm and I feel kind of bad saying that, but At the same time, I really don't. I mean, not at all.
No, I mean, to say I feel bad is. I mean, I don't say I feel bad, but I feel bad in the scope where I don't ever want to be in a position where if I were to die, the world would be a better place.
Yeah,
You
no, exactly.
know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that's horrible. And I think that's truly the case with Fred Phelps. The world will be better without him. And
yeah,
that is sad in and of itself.
yeah. It's a horrible statement on the man's life, and I don't disagree. But this week hasn't only been about, when you're talking about religious gay bashing, or religiously motivated gay bashing. My favorite faux Catholic organization, the Catholic League, has been urging a beer boycott for Guinness, Heineken, and Sam Adams because they pulled their sponsorship of the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Boston.
Good for them.
Yeah, because the organizers of the St. Patrick's Day Parade said that they were going to let gay people march in the parade, but they could not hold signs or do anything to depict that they were gay. And when the organizers said that, at first Sam Adams was like, "Fine, we're pulling our sponsorship," and then Heineken did the same, and then Guinness did the same. And good for them. Like, I mean, that just shows you the tide. When beer companies don't want to be associated with homophobia, I think, like, we're moving in the right direction.
And we have to to give notice that beer has fueled a lot of hate over the centuries. So.
Yeah, of course. Like, it's that march of progress. It just sort of, bows towards, tolerance.
So what did the event organizers say? Like the Boston Gay Men's Choir could march, but they had to be the Boston All Men's, not necessarily gay choir? Like, is that how they had to portray themselves?
They couldn't carry signs or do anything like that, so it couldn't be like the Gay Irishmen's Association, or I don't know exactly who they were talking about, but they were saying that in the past, and growing up in Massachusetts, this is something that was always sort of like a big issue around St. Patrick's Day was, will gay people be allowed to march in the parade? And people are like, oh, they're going to make it all about them and not about St. Patrick's Day, which, I mean, I say, fuck it. St. Patrick's Day is my birthday, and if gay people want to march down the street, I say let them.
I'm surprised that happened. Of all the marathons, in Boston of all places.
Yeah. Boston, Massachusetts is a weird place.
But can we also take notice that they didn't want the gays to make it an issue about them being gay, but the straight people who hate gays made it an issue about them being gay?
Yeah.
Irony.
Yeah. So yeah, the three companies were sort of applauded by GLAAD, and I guess it was the New York and Boston St. Patrick's Day parades, and those have barred LGBT groups for years, both those parades, and so they sort of came out and said, okay, you can march, but don't make it about your gayness.
Damn it, Matt.
Which is such a ridiculous thing to say. But the Catholic League, and the Catholic League always makes me laugh. Bill Donahue is a joke. Came out and called for, they called for this boycott, and they sort of try and quote the First Amendment, and apparently he doesn't really know what the First Amendment really means. But he said, which guarantees the right of private parade organizers to determine its own rules for marching. And no one told the parade that they had to let gay people march and hold signs about being gay. These beer companies just didn't want to be a part to it.
It's funny about all this stuff. Like, and I know this is going to sound, I guess, maybe awful, but it's like there's a really simple litmus test that you can apply to all these situations. Just replace the word gay with black. And holy shit, that is racist. Don't do it.
Yeah.
You're being homophobic and you're being, you're on the wrong side of history. Just all you gotta do is think about it a second. Like, okay, you guys can show up and march in a parade, but you can't represent yourselves as black. How is that going to go over? Not at all. And why are people shocked when other groups are upset about it?
Yeah, and
mainly the groups that are told they can't do it.
yeah,
my logic is a little circular, but I'm getting there.
People don't like to be called out on their shit and their dirty laundry, and that's essentially what happened here. Is you have an organization that tried to do something shady and got called out on it, and then threw a tantrum when they got called out on it, and all their friends came out and threw a little tantrum with them.
What do you think the likelihood of getting people in Boston to stop buying Guinness beer is? Slim and none.
Pretty, yeah. Slim and none is probably about right. That city, I mean, especially on St. Patrick's Day, like, so March 17th in Boston and the surrounding cities is 2 holidays. It's St. Patrick's Day, but it's also Evacuation Day. It's the day that the British left Boston. So it's a big deal. And basically the whole city and all the surrounding cities shut down. Like there's, it's a municipal holiday. And the bars open at 9 a.m. So, and with Sam Adams and Guinness and Heineken, yeah, there's no stopping those people from drinking that. So, good luck.
Yay, Catholic League.
Yeah, good Catholic League. Bill Donahue is a joke. He's ridiculous. What?
Oh, go ahead.
No, go.
Oh, I was going to say, did you hear about the GOP nominee in Illinois?
I only briefly. This is the person who claims that autism and dementia are God's punishment.
Yeah, that person.
Okay. For abortion and LGBT rights. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah, I only heard about it briefly. So if you want to lead us in.
Basically, I mean, she's not going to win because, I guess the Democrat in that district.
Hey Bob, you're picking up a lot of background noise and it's muting everyone.
I'm sorry, it's quiet here.
Yeah, Bob, stop being a drag on the party.
Oh,
That was harsher than I meant.
Did you turn my microphone down?
that's perfect right now.
You're good now.
Okay. I don't know what background noise it was picking up because it's quiet here.
It seemed like it was you're catching the echo from your microphone and from something. So anyway, go ahead,
Stop
Matt.
breathing heavy in the microphone.
Just very excited to be back, right?
I had a roommate who breathes like Darth Vader. You'd get that kind of like.
I am.
I hope he
I am wearing my
doesn't-
Darth
Oh my
Vader
God!
t-shirt.
Did you see episode 7's coming out in a little less than 2 years?
You're doing it again, Bob.
Bob,
Yes.
I don't know what you're doing, but you're causing a lot of feedback. We'll work at it. But anyway, go ahead with your story, Matt. Tell us
Okay.
about the congressman.
I'll work on it.
I'll text you, Bob.
Side note: Batman: Arkham Knight is also coming out this fall, which I will buy $600 for an Xbox One to play that game.
I've just been playing Arkham City, and it's awesome.
Dude, I just replayed it again, which is sad because it's like the 100th time. Anyway, Congressman blaming everything on gay people. So it's Suzanne Adonis, a 55-year-old Christian conservative. She won the Republican nomination in the 9th Congressional District in Illinois. And her primary opponent was Republican David Earl Williams III, who actually wants to challenge the results. But Adonis claims that God is angry with the United States and, in a sense, scourges like autism and dementia to punish the American people. She says, I am a conservative Republican and I believe in God first. She claims God controls the weather and has put tornadoes and diseases such as autism and dementia on earth as punishment for gay rights and legalized abortions. This is a quote, God is angry. We are provoking him with abortions and same-sex marriage and civil unions. She said, same-sex activity is going to increase AIDS, and if it's in our military, it will weaken our military. We need to respect God.
Yeah, she's just sort of totally batshit because, tornadoes and diseases never existed, before same-sex marriage was an issue or legalized abortions, right?
Right. Like that.
Right.
Didn't happen.
Yeah, never happened. I talk about all the plagues throughout the years, the tornadoes, earthquakes. Yeah. It was all because of.
I think the problem here is you just never bothered reading that part where Jesus was once asked, "Hey, who made this person blind? Who sinned, his parents or him?" And Jesus responded, "Well, it's because you legalized gay marriage, douchebags."
I must have skimmed over that.
How did you miss it?
Yeah.
New Testament scholar, my.
I never did read the Gospel according to douche.
It's in the back.
Did you
Yeah,
see the
right.
fallout from that, though? Her statements?
No.
The Republican Party will not touch her with a 10-foot pole. They dropped her. They dropped her sponsorship from the party. They dropped all her funding. They told her she should drop out of the race.
Didn't Pat Robertson say something similar not too long ago, though?
Well, he's not running for election.
Well, I know, but I just think it's the reactions.
Is
are
in
different.
demonic possession, or is that what you're talking about?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Stop it.
She's so this is exactly why the Republican Party and conservatives, they're being hijacked by this hyper conservative mentality that's just stuck on this ridiculous issue that the two things plaguing our society are gay marriage and legalized abortions. It has nothing to do with the fact that we've set up an economic system that robs the lower 95% dry and is building a bubble economy that's just going to burst eventually and leave everyone with a totally desiccated third world country. No, it's not that. It's not the fact that we can't provide decent health care or education to our citizens. It's gay marriage and abortions.
Did you see that theoretical NASA study? A friend of mine posted it today. That I think it was it was actually talking about the issue of inequality and resources and how number one, we're heading for a catastrophe, which we could begin seeing in the next 15 years in terms of how society. They were talking how society can't progress and us take care of the environment at the same time, and about how in the next 15 years maybe, and then after, you'll begin to see that issue of energy, food, water, and the lack of resources for these things beginning to take effect. But because of the income gap, the elites are kind of get sheltered from that, so that they don't feel the effects at first, and so it's just business as usual. But for the common people, that's where you begin to see this sort of those desperate circumstances take a toll on them first, and it was partly blamed on the income gap.
Yeah, no, that's been the premise for this sort of thing. NASA did an experimental study. I saw it, and it's cool because it's getting a lot of hype, and people are reading it, and they're going, "Oh yeah," but it gets written off because it's sort of this, oh, 15 years from now, and it's sort of like overhyped. But I mean, sociologists have been saying this for years, and saying that, hey, we need to watch. It's the reason why concepts like the Gini index exist, is to measure economic inequality within countries. And the U.S. ranks very, very low on the Gini index. We honestly do rank with some third world countries. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all, because you do have these people who live lives that they're totally sheltered from anything. When you're talking about access to resources, a billionaire is not going to have anywhere near the problem that someone who lives paycheck to paycheck is going to experience. And when a bulk of society, globally, is living paycheck to paycheck, it's troublesome.
That's the whole premise of the movie Elysium. Not to bring it back to pop culture, but that's what it was. It was a dystopian future where there were the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots had to spend all their time and energy scrounging for resources, and those resources were money and food and shelter and all the simple things. They're down to the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then the haves, had it all. They didn't need anything, and they had so much, but they just kept accumulating more and more and more, and that's what happened. And I saw that study you're talking about too. And one of the things that they did in that study is it wasn't like they were taking observations and extrapolating. They took observations and they built models, and the models extrapolated for them, and the news wasn't good.
Well, the reality is we can look at what's happening now. If we just shift the haves and have not sliding scale down a little bit. I mean, if you look at third world countries and you look at impoverished nations, and you look at all the waste, or you can just look. You don't even have to look at other nations. You can look here in the United States. If you look at lower income neighborhoods and geographically or lower income families, and you look at the environment around there, they receive all of our waste. That's where the oil refineries are. That's where all of the pollution is dumped. That's where all the dumping grounds are, and that's reflected on a larger scale if you look at the world map. So us, the middle class, the people sitting here broadcasting this, sitting in our air conditioned food in our refrigerator, bed to sleep in, steady jobs, we're in, if we just slide that paradigm down, we are the wealthy compared to the ones who are suffering from our pollution, because we want electricity, because we want gas and all this, that the lower income neighborhoods and individuals and families are suffering from.
Yeah, no, and that's totally valid point. When you're looking at, and I feel like maybe the reason why this needs to be pointed out in pop culture to Americans is because living in our country, we don't face real poverty ever. You are almost never confronted with absolute poverty. Poverty in the first world is still relative poverty. I mean, the sociological terms are absolute poverty and relative poverty, where even homeless people living in the United States live in a state of poverty that is typically better than an average person living in a third world country. And that's, I mean, it's shocking, and people might be like, oh, no way, that's absolutely not true. But it is. Like, homeless people in the first world still have access, by and large, to fresh water, to food, at least somewhat, to sanitation, but those things don't even exist in huge swaths of South America, Central America, Africa, Southeast Asia. They just do not exist.
Well, you also, I mean, it doesn't just boil down to, having the clean water to drink, or being homeless. You can just look here at Richmond, California, they're right next to an oil refinery, which 5 years ago, exploded and polluted the entire Bay Area, and the families that were affected most were the families that were living at the doorstep of these refineries. And even without that explosion happening, the families living at the doorstep of these refineries are suffering from health issues. They're suffering from cancer. They're suffering from birth defects. Their soil is so polluted that they can't even grow crops here. And I think people who are disconnected from the fact will say, well, why don't they move? There's so many other places to move, but you can't. You don't have money, you don't have resources, and you don't have the means to do so. You're stuck in these,
Yeah, because moving isn't a free thing. You don't just move somewhere and like magically have a house to live in. And that's what I'm talking about. We're having this sliding scale where, I mean, wealth is a zero-sum game. Like, there is only so much wealth, unfortunately. And the way our society works is wealth generates wealth. But that wealth doesn't just come out of a vacuum. It comes from the remaining wealth that you don't have. And it shifts up to an ever decreasing sliver of society that has wealth. And it makes me think of like video games where like you have to like jump up the ledge and like escape the water that's rising. You're making your way up. And it's kind of like that. And the middle class are stuck closer to the water that's rising slowly, and just trying to scramble to keep out of the water's reach. Because exactly what you described, you might as well have been describing, the Niger Delta in Africa, in Nigeria, because one of the most fertile, rich, biodiverse areas of the planet. But unfortunately, it's where a bunch of very, very poor indigenous Africans live, who have been killed. Like, I mean, their numbers reduced from 3 million to under 1 million in the past couple decades, because it's incredibly oil rich.
Well, it'd be all different if they built refineries next to country clubs.
Yeah, it would be totally different. It would be utterly, utterly different. If they put a refinery in downtown, like Beverly Hills, yeah, that'd be the end of refineries.
That would be
everything would be solar for like ever. But that's it was an interesting article. I glanced at it briefly and I was like, yeah, duh.
It kind of reminded me of a book by Slavoj Žižek, The Living in the End Times. I actually saw it at I've seen it for the past 2 years, and so I've always thought about buying it. It's a pretty big book. And then I saw it on a bookstore the other day in Idaho for $5. So, but I'll just read part of the description. The underlying premise of the book is a simple one. The global capitalist system is approaching an apocalyptic zero point. Its four riders of the apocalypse are the ecological crisis, the consequences of the biogenic revolution, the imbalances within the system itself, problems with intellectual property, the forthcoming struggle for raw materials, food and water, and the explosions of social divisions and exclusions. And like I said, I've been wanting to read the book. I obviously haven't yet, but it seems interesting, and him being the cultural critic and overall smart guy he is.
All around smart guy.
I believe that's his official title. PhD in smart guyology.
Man, that sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, Zizek he's an interesting fellow for sure. I've seen some interesting debates with him and Chomsky, so he's interesting, but definitely very smart and astute when he's looking at this sort of what is facing our culture. And that's one of my problems is we only have a two-party system here in this country, and that in and of itself is problematic. And one of them is being hijacked by ridiculously conservative, what is essentially one specific branch of ridiculous conservative Christian ideology.
I'm gonna push back on that. There's that branch, but then there's also the Ayn Rand libertarian types.
Yeah. Of course,
They're mixing with the Christian, the hardcore Christian types you're talking about, but there's also the Ayn Randians as well.
And I feel like sometimes they're intertwined too, and it's kind of like, Ayn Rand, like Atlas Shrugged is my favorite book, but I'm going to ignore the fact that she was an atheist. In fact, I've heard, I wish I knew where it was. I've heard Christians push back against Ayn Rand to being an atheist so much as to utterly deny that she actually was an atheist.
I mean, I don't think it matters if she was an atheist. I don't think that matters so much as if she was right. I don't think she was right, but I'm not sure it would matter that she was an atheist. But I know why some people would.
Yeah, they don't want to be associated with an atheist immorality.
Other side.
What's the atheist morality?
Sorry, I was talking to Bob.
I was like, well, it's subjective.
The dog's sleeping on the couch behind me.
Oh. And that's the problem is instead of addressing these complex and just frankly fucking important issues that face our culture, we focus on abortion and gay marriage. And what worries me is whenever there's a two-party system, you get this, and I've noticed it in the media in the past few years too. Instead of like, whenever one party kind of like starts getting down in the dirt, the other party doesn't kind of stand up on its own merit and go, yeah, we're better than them. Look at them. They're fucking crazy. No, they get right down in the dirt too, and they're like, "Oh shit, is this what we need to do? Is this what's going to work?" Because it's such a mind game between these two parties to see who can steal whose constituents. And I'm afraid the other party is going to start doing that now too, and then we're all screwed.
Point the camera at you. Yeah.
We lost Matt.
So I'd like you guys to meet my pastor.
Yeah.
This is how I'm in his basement right now. This is just
Wait a minute. This just adds more stories to the. Never mind.
the gay porn. Yeah, the gay porn in the South. Yeah. He's
Oh, man.
from Kansas. So does that count?
I think we have a title for the show, "The Penis of the Pastor."
Oh my god. Oh.
Thanks,
You
Matt.
can go put on some tidy whities and prance around.
Technically, they're blueies.
Oh. Are we gonna have to put a NSFW before the show title?
Oh my god.
And
Maybe.
This is why I'm not religious.
I feel bad about posting this one on my wall for his sake.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Derailed.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right. So, like thinking about those religious groups that have hijacked political parties. I think that that's true, and I also think that those religious influences are behind those political parties making those bad decisions, like putting refineries where they go, or doing those things like that, because there's no consequence in their mind. It's all gonna go up in a big ball of fire really soon. So what does it matter? Just do what you can now, and if they're poor, then they're in God's graces and His mercy now. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think that's an underlying attitude that drives those decisions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You get this sort of, ignore. Maybe one influences the other. I don't know, but you have like a very sort of like imminent eschatology where like shit's gonna end soon, so let's why clean up the party?
Well, isn't there that statistic out there, and I forget what it was, but it's a frighteningly large portion of Americans, and by extension, American lawmakers, who feel that the world will end in their lifetime.
Yeah, it was something like 30% or something like that.
That can't be. You can't have good policy if that's what you think.
I'm gonna try.
What did you call it, Ken? 2,000 years of any day now.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's 22%. 22% of Americans
That's
believe.
1 in 5.
Yeah, it's more than 1 in 5. It's, I mean, that's, yeah, it's 1 in 7 worldwide, but it's more than 1 in 5 in the U.S.
And that's the same mindset where they feel free to make bad political decisions that are bad for people in the long run because there is no long run.
Yeah, to put this in perspective, Turkey is up there with us. We like roughly as up there as Turkey. Great Britain is 8%. France is 6%. Yeah, this is, and but that's the thing. Like, imagine going to a party. You're at a house party, and shit's getting real messed up. Are you gonna pick anything up? Like, I mean, shit's getting trashed. Are you gonna pick anything up if you know you're leaving in 10 minutes? Like, it's not your party, it's not your house, it's someone else's house. There's tons of people, there's hundreds of people in this party. And everyone's just sort of like breaking shit and knocking shit over. You feel like, I'm leaving in 10 minutes, so what's the point in picking up that drink I just spilled?
And that was the premise of 21 and Up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
No, it's not that nice.
So. Oh, you muted so loud.
Mute it, not. Mute.
Bob, can you hear?
There we go.
I can hear.
Okay. You got to turn your microphone up and then talk and then turn it back down?
I'm muting and unmuting.
Okay. But that's a scary amount of people. That's a lot of people who think the world's going to end in their lifetime. And I mean, that's been a recurring topic on this show.
So let me throw this curveball. Okay, so we have the religious that has a large percentage of people who believe that the world's going to end and that they don't need to focus on that other than whatever ideology they have. And then we have reports from scientists that say that the world's going to end because we've passed the tipping point. So what's the use for any of us now? I mean,
well, I think there's a distinct difference in the sort of like apocalypse, end of the world, everything's going to be destroyed, everyone goes to heaven and everything's going to be good. And like scientifically speaking, the planet's kind of going down the shitter. And even though we're past the tipping point, we can still work to minimize the worst aspects of it. Like, it's like, if you have a fire in your living room and you're like, oh shit, like, that's not good. Are you gonna like say, fuck it, and go light your kitchen on fire too? Like, no, you're gonna try and salvage as much of the house as possible. And I feel like that's the distinct difference, where you have, like pointing to a problem, being like, hey, this is a legitimate problem, as opposed to ignoring a problem and saying, stuff's going to end anyway.
The irony, of course, is the way a lot of people's eschatology almost gives them the right to be they use it to justify their own selfishness.
Yeah.
And their lack of willingness to sacrifice how much they consume, live within their means, be generous to others, in an effort to protect all of their stuff in some Lockean social contract that can protect their property and their things and their stuff. Which is why I personally find that type of eschatology really frustrating. And the politics of social conservatism even more frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering how much too this gets enabled by a certain because there's also the economic theory side that almost enables this view. And so I'm wondering if there's a way to kind of like, other than confronting people's selfishness and saying, hey, have you ever thought maybe you just want to hold on to your stuff and be justified in not being generous to others? I don't know. There are economic reasons for the reasons why conservatives do this, not just the religious ones. Because there are also elements of corporate greed from sponsors, the elite, people shaping the message. That capitalism is the best system, that consumption is the best system, that getting into as much debt as you can is the best system, that consuming more and more perishable goods. Like, I think it was Weber who talked about, economics precedes politics, and then subsequently also affects religion and all these things. Like, the economic model is also the problem. And I'm not saying the eschatology isn't a problem. I mean, I'm the first one to tell anyone who thinks that way, read N.T. Wright's Surprised by Hope so you stop, tearing down trees for your SUV. Like, I'm the first person to tell them that. But there are also real economic issues that need to be addressed too, that almost couple with that eschatology to create this like justification for selfishness in a form that ends up taking this weird form of like bad faith, justification for selfishness. Like, it's a bad faith, it's a false choice. To either, to like wait for the end and not try because Jesus is coming back, which justifies your bad choice of selfishness.
Yeah.
Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yes.
And I want to. Can I just expand on that real quick? Because I think part of it is that we approach that scenario and that topic a little bit different, because we normally look at it that we're bad people, or that we're evil, or whatever it is, instead of looking at it, it's just bad design. It's just we've been taught a bad design. We're taught from day one is that if you work hard and you become successful, that you will become successful if you work hard to try to achieve that. And the more things you can acquire and consume, the more money you bring in, the more money you put back out there. And as you get richer, the poorer get richer, because we all just bring everybody up. And it hasn't shown to be true. And so I think we also should look at the bad design that we're teaching our society as we move forward. But
That trickle down theory has been demonstrated to be false on in practice and in like similar models. Did you ever read it was like, I think it was in New York, it was like the New York Babysitting Club.
yeah.
It was a model of, it was like this, it was a model of trickle down economics, and the way it worked was like all these parents got together and you accumulated credits for babysitting, and then you spent the credits to get a babysitter. And after a time, they found out that there was like all these people who had all these credits to get babysitting, but never used it. They just accumulated more and more and more. And then there was everybody else who didn't have any credits to spend on babysitting. It was like this little micro economy that they set up, and it turned out exactly like that. It turned into the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots were always struggling, and the haves had more than they needed.
And yes, you show that point perfectly, and that's what I was saying. Yeah.
But I think another important distinction about like this idea of, and I totally get what you're saying, Jason. I think it would be easy for someone that has a religious viewpoint, that if they do believe that the end is coming in their lifetime, and they see, those posts about NASA study says, world's going to end or we're all screwed. They see that stuff, right? If they see that stuff, they go, well, yep, see, it's all true. I think the difference is that they welcome the idea. For them, that's good news.
Yeah, which I think is a huge problem. I mean, because I think that despising of creation, I think, number one, thank you, Plato, and Gnosticism, because I don't think that has to inherently be the Christian message. So I agree it's problematic that idea or that slant or that train of thought exists that despises the physical world. So I mean, if anything, I would want to correct that mindset. But I agree, like if you have that mindset that yeah, you're right, you welcome it.
Yeah. With that said, I think we're about time.
Yep.
So why don't we take us out? So
before we go
what
out-
is?
I'm sorry.
yes.
Before we go out, have you guys watched the new Cosmos?
I watched the first
Not
episode.
yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. It nearly brought me to tears.
The first episode was good. I saw that. I haven't seen.
It was so very, very good. You guys should totally check it out. It's really, really good.
I love the
I was-
calendar.
I think it's on Fox.com.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's available for streaming. It's all over the place. And did you see the bit about? So in the first episode, it's all the scope of time and space and real big idea stuff. And but there was a Fox affiliate in Oklahoma that just happened to omit the 15 seconds where Neil deGrasse Tyson mentions evolution in the first episode of Cosmos. Coincidence? I think not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said it was an
I think no.
accident, but we'll see what happens because the second episode is all about evolution. That's all it talks about. So we'll see how they swallow that pill. Anyway, watch Cosmos. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
By the way,
Somehow the second episode was just looked exactly like the first episode.
speaking of which,
So if you had
Hold
any
on,
questions,
Matt
comments,
wants- Matt-
yes, go.
Go
no,
ahead.
it's fine. I was just gonna
What's
be like,
Matt
so Bob,
saying?
did you read my Genesis paper?
Almost, yeah. I'll have read it before the next time we do this.
And did you ever
That's a
respond
promise.
Did you ever respond to Aaron, your ID buddy?
I responded to him a couple of times. Then I think he just got tired of messing with me.
Uh,
He was really
We can
really
take this
like
off the
mired
air.
in the
Let's let-
details, man. Like he was really. It was like the whole discussion was like one of those things. Like it was like I found one minute detail in this incredibly complicated system that the researchers didn't seem to understand. So therefore, it must all be incredible. It all must be evidence of irreducible complexity in a creator. It was a little frustrating. It was a good exercise, but I don't know.
so then
Wait,
were
wait,
you like,
wait,
dude,
wait.
read Thomas Kuhn. It's called A Paradigm.
Yeah.
Take us out, Ken.
All right. So if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, you want to throw word bombs at us to let us know that you're very, very angry with what we talked about tonight, or if you want to heap tons of praise on us, you can reach us at 757-337-2195. Jason listens to all of those. He might be wearing his underwear when he's listening to them this time.
No.
You can email us
Not
at
be wearing
zombie-popcorn.com. You can like us on Facebook and Google+. And, of course, you can visit the website, zombiepopcorn.com, to check out our show and all the other shows that the network put together.
And we are always live, and you can hang out with us in the chat room.
Yeah.
Never-
With that,
never-
we'll see you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Have a good night.